The important thing for you is, in any situation, be in touch with that inherent power of presence, because ultimately that is the power of now. Ultimately the now is the presence, and the presence is you. And ultimately you are, in its deepest sense, you are the now, because the now is the presence. And this is why I speak of the power of now. The power of now is also the power of you, and not the personal you, but the you that remained and never was not connected. It always is connected and always is an intrinsic part of universal power itself, universal consciousness itself, the one consciousness that underlies all phenomena, the one consciousness of which all phenomena are only a temporary expression. So there's enormous power there. How that manifests in this world is a secondary thing. Perhaps it only manifests as an emanation that comes through you, or it flows into something that you do or create. Most people, they're looking for little substitutes to give them a sense of who they are. And of course, this is the reason why it is not unusual for humans to awaken spiritually, to awaken to who they are in their essence, when either one big thing or many things that they had derived their identity from, good looks, physical strength, possessions, abilities to do this or that, recognition, social status in society, those things, and suddenly they lose these things, or they lose one big thing that was the main, that gave them their sense of identity, the one main thing that gave them their sense of identity, and that's gone. And that's, of course, would be, at first, is terrible suffering. There's a medieval image of Fortuna. Fortuna is the goddess of good luck or fortune. It goes back to Roman times. That shows the fickleness of things, the transient nature of all the things of this world, which are the things that people identify with. It gives them that sense of identity, their self-esteem. And it has a Latin inscription on it. It's an image of the goddess, and translated from Latin it says, this is supposed to be a king speaking, or former king, which king stands for any ego, and it says, it has these words in Latin. The first word is, I shall reign. The next word is, I reign. To reign, to reign a kingdom. Old age is a great opportunity for that, unfortunately missed in many, many cases. Tragically missed the opportunity as old age comes, approaches, and then you enter old age, proximity of death, loss of physical abilities, of social status, retired, who am I when I no longer have that title in my work. All these things are great opportunities for going deeper. And what we are attempting to do now is getting as many books and other material out to old people's homes everywhere, and also hospices and hospitals and so on, because those are great places where spiritual transformation could happen. So the important thing then is sense your presence, the presence of you, which is not the person, something deeper. That is consciousness, being aware of itself. And then you no longer need a narrative to tell you who you are, free of that conceptual sense of self. With it also comes the wonderful ability to appreciate other human beings, what they can do, what they know, how they look, without feeling diminished by appreciating the external things connected to another human being. The ego can't do that. Because if the ego appreciates something, it might pretend because it wants something from you. But if the ego appreciates something, it feels diminished. If you meet somebody who obviously looks so much better than you, and the ego feels diminished by that. So sometimes it tries to say something critical about that person in order to restore the injured sense of self. It's absurd, but that's how it works. But when you come from presence, you can look at a beautiful form of a human being and appreciate that and feel it's so beautiful. Or the achievements of another human being, to appreciate their achievements. Great, what wonderful things that this person can do, it's so wonderful. I would never be able to do that. And yet, the fact that you would never be able to do that, because perhaps you're not strong enough or you're not inclined in that particular direction, does not diminish anything, you. So the appreciation of others then comes in, and it's a lovely thing. And you may find that sometimes very creative people, there are some who have no ego about their creations. They do not derive their identity from what they create. Others have fairly big egos. That happens too. I believe the greatest creators in this world don't have an ego about that. Maybe they have it somewhere else, but not around that. And that sometimes means that they continue to be creative. So sometimes you see this modesty, which is lack of ego in people who have created something really great. That's also the place where you can manifest out of the power of presence. If you're linked into that presence, see what the universe wants to, because that presence is the presence of consciousness. Does it want to create something through you? Perhaps it does. But in that presence, everything is already present in an undifferentiated state. So whatever it is that you create externally is like the diluted form of something that in its essence, its concentrated non-form is already there in you. So whatever you can possibly create is already present on some level, on a deeper level. There have been composers who created the most incredible pieces of music, and many of them said that they listened as if it came out of that place of depths already fully created, and they just wrote it down.